Bill, you just mentioned how bewildering the U.S. legal system and the different enforcers can be to foreign audiences. As one of the founders and really forces behind the growth of the International Competition Network, I wonder if you see there might be a role for NAG or some of the leading state AG's offices in this country to participate to help explain to the international audience, some of the intricacies of our system and some of the enforcement priorities that these offices have.
I think an issue for consideration, although ICN only consists of what might be called national authorities, that's part of its charter. A notable number of ICN members have significant competition policy functions dedicated to political subdivisions. That is, regions, what we would say are the equivalent of our states. And I think an important issue in the background is what is the relationship between these other public resources and competition policy decision makers to the national regime. That is, there's a tendency in all of these national settings, as Greg knows, as so many do, that we talk about U.S. competition law. Well, what is that? Who makes that? That is, when you simply take into account that even before going to the frameworks that Rob and Emilio were so instrumental in applying during Rob's tenure as AG and now during Emilio's tenure, before we even go to the state-specific legislation, states, of course, have broad authority in many areas to enforce federal legislation. So to talk about the enforcement of U.S. competition law, if we just take the Sherman Act and Clayton Act as two, you can't answer that question without considering the role of the state. So, to my view, an interesting issue for state, for the members of the ICN, for the members of the United Nations Committee on Trade and Development, and for the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development is how do you engage, what is your relationship with political subdivisions within your larger boundaries? How do you work with them? To what extent are your responsibilities dissimilar? And to the extent, again, that you should envision yourself as being part of a genuine collaboration, how do you decide who does what? How do you try and pull policymaking in directions for the entire nation or entity in directions that are worthwhile? So I think a very useful focus of discussion in these other networks would be the role of your states. You could imagine a panel in which you have representatives from one of the U.S. states, one of the lender within the Republic of Germany, where you take important decision makers and you would have a panel and say, this is what we do, and how at a time when each agency is being pressed to do more with less, how does the network of decision makers inside each jurisdiction do its work? Among other things, on this narrow point of cooperation, that when you go to the relevant government agency, that there is not the appearance to them that you speak with many voices, that there's some common vocabulary, even that you just explained to them. I'm from the California AG's office. I'm from the state of Washington. I'm from Massachusetts. You might get other visits, but to the extent that we can mass our efforts in a somewhat more coordinated way for your benefit, we'll do that too.